All right. This is the week 2 for our Python classes. So I will say in today's class for the week 2, we're starting with control flow. So control flow. And the topics we'll be looking at today is going to be if statement, uh, if, elif, and else statements. So I usually refer to this first topic to be conditional statements. Conditional statement, right? So if this does not happen, what should happen, right? So the objective of this training class for today is there are just three major objectives. The first one is for us to understand effectively and use conditional statements, just like I said. So here is it, the conditional statement, if, elif, and else. So we have to understand and effectively use it to make decision in our program, right? And also to use loops. Loops. So the loops we are going to look at is for and while loops, right? To perform repetitive tasks efficiently. So when you want to loop on a particular loop a particular program rather, for that program to run repetitively without it failing or without it lagging, right? So we make use of loops, and the major ones that Python allows us to use is for and while loops. And then there will be a section for a practical Python script to solidify our knowledge, right? So that you will go through by yourself as when I share the notebook with you. So for if, elif, else statements, we are saying that these guys are conditional statements. They allow us to take different paths based on conditions, right? So you can actually take different paths with respect to your program and based on the condition you give to your program. All right, let's look at it this way. You have a direction you're going to, and then your 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 direction is tied to a particular condition. Okay, so you will say that if this particular thing will happen today, I will face this direction, right? Okay, let me just use there's an illustration I want to use. It's just a normal day-to-day activity, right? So if I go to a supermarket and I have my budget and I know everything I need to buy, and I know my choice and my preferences, right? And then but when I get there, I realize that most of my preferences and my choices are not there. So at that point, what will guide my purchase of the things or the stuffs I need to, right? So it just means that if I'm looking for a product that is that the man whose manufacturer is probably, let's say, phone for phones, and then I go and I check. I have a Redmi phone and I have an itel phone, right? So there are so many factors and so many decisions that will guide your purchase of that particular uh products. So the syntax for conditional statement is as follows. The first one is the condition. So you have to initialize the if statement, if condition. So you're saying if the condition is satisfied at this point now, you're saying if this condition is satisfied, there is this block of code that must be executed if condition 1 is what? True. Okay, another good example. I have a younger brother, and then I send him to a shop to purchase let's say a bathing soap for me, right? And my preference is always let's assume Eva soap, and then I give this boy the sum of 1,000 naira, right? I say when you get there, if they have Eva soap, make a purchase for me, right? So what the boy will do is that he's going with the condition in mind that this is what I'm going to purchase, Eva soap. And this is the code that was given to me. If there is Eva soap, what should I do? I should execute it, which means I should buy that Eva soap, right? And then, but there are some cases whereby I could presume or I could foresee that that particular supermarket might not have Eva soap at that particular time, right? And then I will now say, else if they have another one. This is another condition now. So this if is a combination of else and if, right? So this if comes in play when I know my first condition is not satisfied. That's when I will now do what? Introduce a second condition. So I will say, oh, remember, if they don't have Eva soap, please purchase a Premier soap, right? So that boy will go with two conditions in his mind. The first is what? I need to purchase an Eva soap. But the condition tied to that Eva soap is that if it is there in that supermarket. Otherwise, if it is not there, let's work with the second condition, a Premier soap. And it might be very unfortunate that that supermarket might not still have that Premier soap, right? So I will now resolve to him saying, oh yeah, if they don't have anyone they have, any toilet soap they have, just purchase it for me. All right. So let's retrade over it. The first statement is the first line of this particular conditional statement carries the first condition. Okay, so this is it now. If condition 1 is true, please do what? Execute this line of code. So if they should have Eva soap here, purchase it. Don't bother about doing any other thing, right? Because this is what my first choice, right? So Python works with what? Preference, with your scale of preference. The one that comes first is assumed to be what? The one of most interest to you. And then the second one, that's how the scale of preference decreases, right? And then the last one becomes the last option, that whatsoever happens, even if they don't have any kind of thing they have, just purchase and bring, right? But there are some cases whereby somebody has to be very strict with his or her decision, right? You know, our parents back then, if it is not this one, don't buy, right? So they just give us one option. You are not doing any other thing. So now I have a code here. I assume, remember, this first line of code is just a variable demanding on requesting the user to input what his or her age, right? So I now say if age, the age that the person enters is what? Greater than or equal to 18. You should do what? Print you are an adult. All right, let's look at the statement now. What if the person is less than 18? Nothing will be executed. Reason being that it is only one option that was given to this guy, one condition that was given to him is saying that if the person's age is greater than or equal to 18, please always flag the person to be what? An adult, right? And then I come here, I run this code. Let's run this. All right. And I have, let me enter 56 years, right? And after I enter 56 years, let's see what comes up. Oh, sorry, I'm overlooping on this guy. I'm overlooping this. Let's interrupt this cell. Okay. Yeah. Let's go over it again, please. All right. I have, let me see, 47 years. And I think this guy is misbehaving. Let's see what this will do for us. Okay. I think there's an error somewhere here. Okay, okay. So 47 years, and then I run this, it will be outputting what? You are an adult, right? But let's assume the person is not an adult. Let's say, let's run this with the age, no, 33 is still much. Let's say with the age, my keyboard has been bad recently. So 18, or let's work with 17 years. Yeah, 17 years. So look at this guy. He's not going to print out anything, right? But the program, there's no error in the program. So that's one beautiful thing about this. There is no error, but there's no output. All right. So it should interest you to know that when you're working with this if statement, there are times where you will really need to be strict with your decision, right? So you just need one option, and this is how that should be. All right, so we can also go by saying, let's run this. Okay, let's see if we can have an age here. Let's say 36 years. So if we run this code, we'll be having you are an adult, right? The reason is that the age here is what? 36. So I'm saying that if this age is equal to 36, right? Let it indicate what? You are an adult. Remember our code previously. So now, what we are doing in this block 4 is to do what? Accommodate people of other ages or age range, right? So the first condition I gave to this guy, I was saying that if age is less than 18, print you are a minor. Else, if age is what? Greater than or equal to 18 rather, and age is what? Less than what? 60. Print what? You are an adult. So this particular condition cover the range between 18 to what? 59 years, right? So, but once you are above 60, what should be printed should be what? You are a senior citizen. Okay, let's go over it again. You will see that all the ages are being accommodated here. So for less than 18, the person is what? A minor, right? And then in between the ages of 18 to 60, the person is an adult. And then if the person is above 60 or equal to 60, the person is what? A senior citizen. All right, so let's take a good look at an example. Let's say 63 years. We have somebody that is 63 years. You realize that that person is what? A senior citizen, right? So let's work with someone who is a bit lesser. Let's say we have someone that is 3 years old. That person probably should be what? A minor. So it's as simple as this. It's just as simple as this. So let's look at a very quick example on nested condition. So this nested condition just allows you to enter your score and then it will print out your grade for you, right? Let's go over it. The first line of code is where you request the user to enter his or her score. The user is demanded to enter his or her what score. And then if the score is above or equal to 90, I think this is the US grading system. If it is equal to or greater than 90, we should do what? Print grade is A. But under this guy, we want to actually give accolades to people of perfect score, right? I will now nest another statement inside of this block of this 90, greater than 90, right? And I say, if the score is exactly 100, let's tell the person that the person did what has a perfect score. All right. And then if, okay, let's run this first guy first. And let's have our guy to be, let's say 96. Oops, this is not what I want. 96. 96 should be what? Whoa. Is a mix up. My keyboard is seriously misbehaving. Whoa. Okay, so we're dealing with 96. Let's see. Okay, 96. So let's see what should come out. Grade A, right? And then let's also look at somebody with a perfect score, say 100. 100. Whoa. 100 should be for perfect score, I guess. Okay, so let's run this. So grade A, and then you're telling the person to what has a perfect score, right? So this condition is being nested inside of the first condition. Then this other one are just the normal way I explained. So if the score is greater than or equal to 70, we say what the person has a grade B. So somebody will tell me, what if the person has 90? Will grade B come in play? No, grade B will not come because it has been accounted for here in the first condition. Remember, your Python code works with the scale of preference from the top to bottom, right? So it's first of all executes what is up here before it progresses to uh what should be below, before it progresses to what should be below, right? So let's try to close out on this. So that's what went wrong. It's been a while I used this PC. Okay. All right. So having said that, that has to do with of nesting of what? Nesting of conditions or nested conditions, right? And then we'll quickly talk about loops because I tend to cover other areas as well. So for the loops are not as it's not difficult also. So a loop is used to iterate over a sequence. So if you want to iterate over a sequence, remember what loops has to do. Just it goes and continue going and going and going until the condition is being met or until there is an interruption or something that try to end the loop or try to interrupt or kill the loop, the flow of the loop. And then the sequences we can iterate over are list, we have strings, we have range, and all that, right? So the first one is a list of fruits. So I have a list of fruits, and I'm saying that for fruits, for each fruit in this list of fruits, print that I like what fruit. So remember, in our past class, we talked about formatting. So this is just a formatting style that says I like fruit, and this variable name fruit is this which is being declared in the loop. So you start with for, which is the for loop keyword, and then the item each of the item, like the identical item you want to pick out from the list or from the sequence of items. So if you look very closely, fruits is what the variable name for this particular guy here, this fruits here. So it's being stored as fruits. So for each of those fruits in that particular sequence, I want to pick one of them. And then when I pick one of them, I bring it into this guy and I say for each one I'm printing, I like what fruits. So let's run this guy and see if what we are saying is making sense. So we have this to be, well, I love apple, banana, cherry, and all that. All right, so basically that is what for loop does for us. So it iterates until it gets to the last guy, and then it will end or the program will stop. Then the next thing is range-based iteration. So I can decide that I want to iterate over a range of values, right? And this is a simple one. Remember how we talked about getting range, right? So from this is the first value that's going to appear. Okay, let's try to run this code here. Or copy. Then remember how to get a new cell, right? Okay. So we have sorry about that. Range this guy, and when we run this, so it's going to be showing you, let's say we have a list. Okay, so let's have this to be list. Sorry, this PC is really giving a kind of disturbance this week. So we have list right. So if we run this guy, you see what I'm talking about, right? So I'm having that um the start value is 1 and the last value is what 6, right? So it will now produce a list from 1 to 5. So the last value being 6 does not appear because it works with index. Remember, I think I've not done that, but if I should be doing that, the index value for 1 is 0, that's for 2 is 1, that's for 3 is 2, and so on and so forth. But for this 1 to 6, it means that the last value will not appear, right? So that is the simple way to explain that. But then I will now declare my for statement for I. This is an integer. I stands for integer. For I in the range, for I in the range of 1 to 6, we are iterating, right? And then let's print squares of each of those guys is what? That guy raised to the power of what? 2. Remember when you have 2 asterisks to this guy, it means what? Exponential, right? So let's run this and you see that the square of 1 is 1, square of 2 is 4, The square of 3 is 9. And the square of 4 is what? 16. The square of 5 is 25, right? So that is basically how it works. And also we can decide the next kind of loop we have is what? The while loop. The while loop. So while loop continues to execute as long as the condition is true, right? So I am driving so long as the road is clear. I'm blowing on the rate of what? 120, right? Until something happens that will bring me to halt, right? Then this is exactly what I say. So we start counting with 1. This is our counter now, right? Count 1. And then we're saying that while this count is less than or equal to 10, print that the count is what? This guy. So, and then the next thing is you have to add an increment. So this last guy determines if you're increasing or you're decreasing. So, but here, having the plus sign attached to equal to means that we are increasing. So for every complete execution, it will increase by what? 1, right? So if I should run this code now, I'll have that the count is what? 2, the count is 3, count is 4, down to what count is 10. So, but then if I should say this guy should be, let's call this 56 and run this code now. If that is 56 and we want to run this code, you see how it will be, right? So it will give us a very long count is this, count is this. But once it gets to 56, the code stops. But how about if we say 100 and millions? So it will continue running until so long as this condition is true. So once this condition is true, your program keeps running. So remember, you have to set up a counter first, an initial counter. That's when you're using a while loop, and then you set up a condition, then your execution statement, then your increment or decrement parameter. Right, so this one we are increasing by 1. So if we can also decide to increase by 3, right? So if we're increasing by 3, we'll be having the first count to be 1, the second count to be 4, and this other one to be what? 7, and down to 55. The reason is that it can't accommodate 56 because of the what? The increment counter we are using. So that is that's for how do they call it now? That's for working with the while loop. So this is a very good practice exercise I dropped here. So the first one is a number guessing game. So the objective is, or the steps to this guy is, you import the random module to generate a random number. So this guy import random. We'll be making use of this when we get to NumPy and all that, where we're going to be using random values and random variables. So I now say print, welcome to the game. And then I am thinking of a number between 1 and 100. Can you guess? And then you said the target is what? Random.rand integer 1 to 100. The funny thing about this game I just developed is that you, the developer, might not even be able to get the correct guess, right? So it's very, very trickish. But you can as well decide to insert a number here. So let's see. I am working with a target of, let's cut this guy and say working with a target of 56, right? So let's run this guy and I guess 5. And I say, can 5 be the guess? Said no, the try is low, too low. So I now say 50. Can 50 be the guess? No, it's too low. Let's say 51 or let's say 57. Can 57 go? Said no, it's too high. But then let's say 56. And then it will tell you what enter, and congratulations, you guessed it in the fourth attempt, right? So that is exactly what happens in while loop. See, so here, if you notice in this game, I made use of the if conditional statement, and also I made use of the loops, right? So this is it now. I set up my targets, so I didn't want to use the random guy again, so we can exactly predict, as owing to the fact that I'm the developer, I can easily predict, right? So I'm not trying to guess a number that I don't know. So I will now say my target is 56. So wherever you're playing this game from and you choose 56 for this particular program, you will definitely have it to be correct, right? So I now said my number and my attempts starts from 0. So this counter will actually start from 0. Remember what I talked about counter needs to start from 0, and then while truth, or while everything here is true, while I have my attempt to be 56 and I have my targets to be 56 and I have my attempt to be 0. So while those guys up there are true, and then my guess should be equal to what the number the user will input, right? And remember, we have to bring in our integer, int, input, and enter a guess, right? And then I'll be increasing this attempt by 1. So upon every attempt you enter, or upon every number you guess and is not correct or is either correct, this my attempts guy will be keeping record of it, right? And then if the guess is less than the target, remember, if the guess is less than the target is what? Print too low. If the guess is greater than the target, print what? Too high. Right? So, but then if this guy is not, it should be what? Congratulations. So if it is not greater than, it is not less than, it has to be what? Exactly that particular number. Right? And then when you're done with all of this, please break it. So it's at this point where your program is successful. That's when it will do what? Break. But so long as it's not successful, or so long as it's not correct, it continues going and going and guessing, right? So let's check out for the second guy. The second guy is actually a multiplication table generator. So it's a step-by-step breakdown. The first one is use an input to ask the user for a number. Then you use a loop to iterate through the numbers 1 to 10. So we want to have our integers to be between 1 and 10. And then they multiply the user input by our loop counter. So this 1 to 10 guy will be our loop counter. And then we're multiplying the user number by that particular counter. All right, it's very simple. So once your user enters a number, we print that the multiplication table is for that particular number the user entered. And then I now say for integer, or for a number in the between the range of 1 to 11. Remember, if I'm going with a counter that has to do with that the maximum value is 10, remember in my range or in my array, I have to include 11 to be our support, right? And then I say print format number, the one the user entered, multiplied by what? I. So mind you, your for loop will help you iterate through this guy. So long as I is here, it will keep printing and printing until it gets to the last value, which is 10. So the number times I should give us what? Number asterisk I. So if we run this guy, and bless me, and I have 5 here, so I should be expecting what? The 5 times table, right? So the same thing is applicable in this one. I can decide to run this, and I say 6, right? So the multiplication table for 6 will appear. So that ends the class for today. If you have any question or any feedback, you have any comment, anything at all, you will like to share with me. Right.